Hello and welcome to Terabytes, where we give you usable, relevant, to the point, bite sized information on anything related to tech. Today we look at CORS, cross origin resource sharing, and how it helps in securing the web. Now, what is CORS, what it stands for, why is it needed, how does CORS work, how do we get websites and servers to implement CORS, what is pre-flight and options call. So these are the things that you'll get by the end of this short video, and you'll have a good handle on these things, and you'll be able to go ahead and explain CORS or understand what CORS is, how it is implemented, and so on. So what is CORS? Right, CORS is an HTTP header-based mechanism, and it allows a server to control if any origins other than its own should be permitted to load resources. Before we understand this definition, we need to understand how a typical browser-based application works, right? A website works. So this is a very basic browser-based application. If you look at this is a browser, and I have a server which is hosting the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, or whether it is React or whatever, right? All the resources are available in this server, mysite.com. So now I'm typing http://mysite.com. Now, if you look at the flow, once you type enter, the HTML, it requests for the resource, the HTML gets loaded. Then there will be a subsequent request to load the JavaScript, CSS, and other resources, images, and so on. Right. So this is how a typical website works. Now assume that in mysite.com, there is a section where you can calculate your taxes. Right now, to calculate your taxes, you find that there is another server which hosts like an API. Maybe it's a free API, and you want to use the free API to calculate the taxes. Now you try to call HTTPS. So the URL is HTTPS yourtaxes.com/calculate taxes. So this call will then, this is an API which you can pass in some parameters, and it will give you the calculated value for the tax. But by default, in all modern browsers, this sort of like interaction will not be allowed. It will be like blocked, showing a CORS error. So if you look at a few terms here, right? Origin is like a term here, and another term here is resources, right? So how do we understand this origin and resources? So if you look at what resources are, or even before that, it will be better if we understand what origin is, right? So in case of origin, so origin could be a domain or a subdomain, like for example mysite.com, yourtaxes.com. So this is and this is an example of an origin. Or if you look at a subdomain, like for example api.yourtaxes.com or myblog.mysite.com. So a subdomain is a different origin than a domain. So in terms of CORS, right? Now another thing that is considered as part of origin is a scheme. Scheme could be HTTP or HTTPS. All of these are considered as schemes. Port is also yet another like origin that is considered. So if you look at port, right? So by default, HTTP is running on port 80, and HTTPS is running on port 443 by default. But you can, or of course, do :8080, :5050, right? So that is considered different than what is run different origin than that is what is running on port 80. Okay, so origin, that is origin. Resources are something like APIs, JavaScript, CSS, iframe, images, everything. So all of these things are resources as per this definition, right? So now if you read this definition again, it's an HTTP CORS is an HTTP header based mechanism. It allows the server to control if any origins other than its own should be permitted to load resources. What happens basically if you want to allow access to CORS, right? Specifically allow cross origin resource sharing, you will get an error that looks something like this. Access to fetch at some URL from the origin has been blocked by CORS policy. No access control allow origin header is present in the requested resource. So this sort of an error, this is something you will see. So what is the mechanism to do that? So you might have heard of something called as pre-flight or pre-flight options calls. So what is pre-flight options called? If you don't understand what options is one of the HTTP methods like get, post, put. There are eight or seven or eight methods, right? Get, post, put, delete, options, trace, connect, all that. So for example, these are the HTTP methods, and these are used for different purposes. Get and post are the most frequently used. If you can use put, delete, options, trace, patch, connect, all of these. We can have a separate video explaining these if needed. Now what is this pre-flight options called? So the browsers, what they do is before they actually do a get or a post call here, right? So suppose this yourtaxes.com calculate taxes is a post call. Before even actually making that, the browser will now go and request for an options call. It will make an options call. So it looks something like this. So let me move this up. So suppose again our same example, assume this is post or get, whatever, right? So in this case, your website is loaded. Now our code is all about calling this method get or post. Maybe we'll say post calculate taxes, right? Even before that, the browser will ask the permission. We could say asking for permission, or it'll call options and the same URL, whatever URL you had or whatever endpoint you're mentioning, it will ask for that, and then the server is going to return what is allowed or not. So for example, if you look at pre-flight options request, so let me show you how the request looks like. So this is how the request will look like. This options call request is going to look like calculate tax http/1.1 host is yoursite.com, right? And the origin will be mysite.com, and the access control request method is get, and the access control request header will be whatever headers, if you want to add whatever headers you want, it will request for that. Now the server knows to respond. It is allowing CORS, it will respond with a different a response, right? So the response will look something like this. So this is the pre-flight options request, and this is the response, right? So in the response header, HTTP header, like I mentioned, it's an HTTP header based mechanism. So the request, in the request header, it is sending what is the resource you are looking for, what is the site that you're looking for, and and what is the header, what is the request method, etc. Now the server is going to return a response like this. Now if you look at the responses, this response sets out allowed methods like get, post, option, and permitted request headers. The server is, also allows sending credentials. So for example, allow credentials equal to true. So this means whether you can send third-party cookies and so on. So we'll get to that. Another one aspect is related to access control max age header. It defines a maximum time frame for caching pre-flight responses for reuse. So the access control max age is this is a header value, and what it says is that you can cache this response and use it for 240 seconds, or you can even do it in a bigger number as well. The server can respond with a bigger number also. So for that much of time, there is no need to again call every time somebody is trying to your client is trying to call this API or this endpoint, this resource, or this origin and this resource. you don't need to call options for this much amount of time. You can cache it and then use it. So what a browser like Chrome will do is it will cache that response, and it will use that whatever information that they got will be reused, so that you don't have to make options call every time. Basically, but the pre-flight check, one aspect, that is the pre-flight check adds an extra HTTP request round trip to the cross domain request, so they increase the browsing overhead. So ideally you could control that with your access control max age. So if you look at access control allow credentials, by default CORS does not include cookies on cross origin requests. Like including third party cookies can lead to vulnerabilities like CSRF, cross site request forgery, and so on. We'll look at CSRF in a separate video. In order to reduce the chance of CSRF in CORS requires both server and client to agree or acknowledge that it is okay to include cookies on the request. It is an active decision that the server takes, and server has full control on whether it is allowing the cookies. So this is at a high level how the response looks like. Now it is also possible to do in the server. So suppose you are the server and you want to allow specific methods or specific origins. So this is like not normal website.com, it is mysite.com, right? Or it could be even star, right? So suppose access, if in the server you can configure this as a star, right? Star in the sense asterisk, right? So this it could even be this. So this means it allows anything, any origin. So it is not really recommended unless you are like a public facing free endpoint. Unless you don't want anybody and everybody to do this, it is ideally not a recommended practice. You should definitely go with named origins and not the wildcard star. So now hope you are able to understand what CORS is and why it is needed, how does CORS work, and what is pre-flight and options, how does a request and a response look like, how the response can be cached, the control of the caching can be done from the server using the access control max age, how the access control allow credentials can be used to allow like cookies, and so on. Hope this video was useful to you. If you found this useful, please do like and subscribe. Thank you.